What does it mean to know yourself? Know thyself. Hmm. It's something that I think about on a daily basis is who am I? Who am I? And I personally feel that it's a question that more people should ask themselves is who am I really? Who am I really behind the job, right? Behind the relationships, behind the friendships, behind everything, right? Behind everything that is external to us, who am I really? Who am I at the core? And one of the things that I realized, uh, asking myself this question over and over and over again is, first of all, I'm none of those things, right? I'm not my job. I'm not my relationships. I'm not my friendships. I'm not even James, which is kind of interesting for me to say because for a very, very long time, I identified as being James Eng, right? That's my name. That's who I was born as. But it's not my true essence. It's not my true self. And without losing you guys when I try to explain this, because there are really, really great books and really, really great thinkers that will explain it a little bit better than me. The point I'm trying to get across is for most of us, for most of our lives, we are identified with the false self. And basically, what I mean by the false self is we're identified with our ego. And I didn't realize we're going to get into so many definitions here. Basically, what the ego is our mind's constructed version of ourselves that fundamentally, if you really, really get deep into it, is not really grounded on actual reality. And not to send you guys on an existential crisis, and trust me, I've been there before, but we're not really our personalities. We're not really our experiences. We're not really our thoughts, and we're not really our mind, even though we're heavily, heavily, heavily identified with our minds and our thoughts and our beliefs and thoughts, beliefs, minds. We're not really that, right? Yes, these are facets of our personality. These are facets of the false self that our mind has created, but to our poorest essence, our true self, we're none of that. And it's one of the strongest illusions, if not the most powerful illusion ever, is identifying with our minds and identifying with our thoughts and identifying with our beliefs and saying, yep, that's me, right? Oh, I believe this. I don't believe that. I like this. I don't like that. I think about these things. Who was it? I think Socrates or one of the ancient philosophers that said, I think, therefore I am. Maybe it was Descartes. I have no idea. It's blanking on me. But that's a lie. That's not true. And it's really interesting because the Eastern philosophers, the Buddhists, the Hindus, they've all figured this out before everyone out here in the West. And now science is starting to catch up. There are some really, really interesting studies from quantum physics, from neuroscience that are starting to prove that the self, right, the ego constructed self, is actually an illusion, just like fear is, which is really, really interesting. And one of the ways that you can prove this experientially because, definitely don't take my word for it, right? Do not take my word for it, because it's hard enough to believe as a concept on its own. And you're probably like, James has lost it. He's finally lost it. He's not James. Like, what is he trying to say, right? Who is he? But one of the ways that you can prove this to yourself is if you can ever get into a deep state of meditation where you're able to disidentify with any thoughts that you might be having, what you'll come to realize is that you're going to be here and your thoughts are going to be here. There's this space right here. You're going to be here and your thoughts are going to be here. You're going to realize that you are actually the observer. And then here is your mind coming up with thoughts. And it's a really interesting place to be, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm not the one that's actually generating the thoughts that are coming out from my mind, right? I'm watching them come out of my mind, but I'm not consciously thinking them, right? So if my mind is over here and I, the observer, am over here, what does that mean about my identity? Like, what does that mean about me? This is something to think about. Another option to understand what I'm talking about is the experience of having an ego death, right? And one of the quickest ways to have an ego death is to do some sort of psychedelics. Disclaimer, don't do psychedelics, right? Unless you're ready for it. This is not me condoning the use of psychedelics, right? Okay, YouTube, so don't ban me. But what that feels like, essentially, is what it feels like to die. Me, personally, I've never died, right? But I have experienced ego death multiple times. And it's the closest thing I can describe to feeling like you're about to die, which can be a scary experience. But if you prepare for it, what you'll find is that it completely shatters your view on what it means to be yourself, right? Because if you've ever gone through that experience of your ego dying, right, your ego letting go of what it means to be you, that can be one of the most transformative experiences that anybody can ever have while they're alive. Anyways, I don't want to ramble on too long. This is something that I could probably spend a couple hours talking about, so I'm most likely going to make a separate video in the future talking about this in a little bit more detail. In the meantime, let me know what your thoughts are on what I just talked about, whether you've had an ego death experience or something similar or something close to just like your identity shattering and being rebuilt. I feel like a lot of people, if not most or many people, have had that happen at least once in their lives. So I'd love to hear it. Put it in the comments, and I'll see you soon.